radio station in Southern California, home to 50,000 watts and an audience reach of 12 million listeners. KBLA Talk 1580 is a pioneer for Black audio content, including our groundbreaking $2 million climate justice campaign and the most loyal, influential audience. According to an independent research study by the polling firm Opportunists, for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the most trustworthy, reliable, and credible news source for Black audiences and beyond in Southern California. Let KBLA Talk 1580 power your advertising dollars. Our omni-channel custom marketing solutions are specifically tailored to connect with your ideal target audience. We leverage audio, podcasts, streaming, digital, social media, and local activations to get your message out to the Black community. Get in touch with our advertising team today at advertising@kbla1580.com. That's advertising at kbla1580.com. KBLA 1580. We've got your Black.
Hi, Tavis Smiley here. We're getting closer to June 18th, and time is running out for you to register to join us for our historic symposium live on C-SPAN, Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Admission is free, but you must register at kbla1580.com right now if you want to be in the audience when the nation will see for the first time ever a stage full of brilliant Black folk talking about the urgency of now. Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. It's all going down. Well, it's actually all going up. Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. live from the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Again, admission is free, but we're filling up fast. So if I were you, I would log on right now to kbla1580.com to reserve your seat. Caring about the climate, caring about the community. We're KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your Black.
KBLA Talk 1580. Yeah, it is a little bit of controversy because it's a Talking Point Tuesday, and that's what we like to do around here. Good for the brain, stimulates the gray matter. Let's talk about it. 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. Welcoming in a member of Project 21. She is a business technology expert, an entrepreneur, and a political commentator with extensive corporate operations and management experience. She is a passionate conservative. She said that, Reverend Lawson, not me, and an active leader in the New Jersey State Republican Party, recently serving as vice chair of Cape May County and former vice chair of the New Jersey Federation of Republican Women. Melanie Collette, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I can also add, I think you and your listeners will want to know this, newly elected official, first Black person to hold a county commissioner seat at where I live in its 300-year history.
Wow, congratulations. That's big.
Thank you.
Now, I imagine that as an active Republican, now we'll say elected, in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Well, let me be optimistic that you're going to support my brother Ras Baraka in his run for New Jersey governor.
Don't do that. No, that's definitely not happening.
Don't do that. That was your response.
That is not happening. He spoke at an event down here once, and basically, I didn't say anything. I was just there to support. to one of our organizations down here that support Black initiatives. Yes, I do go to those, and I do participate, believe it or not. And he basically said that they didn't want anybody they didn't want Black in any density where I live because we don't like Black people. I was like, wow, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I mean, it's not
Oh,
crazy.
my
I mean,
God, what are you doing?
I'm sure it's because I know my brother pretty well. I'm sure he was basing that on data. They're very data driven. My brother Mitty, who generally is his campaign manager. They're very data driven. So I'm sure they looked at some numbers and they did find big support for Black candidates. I mean, you yourself just said you were the first ever elected Black county commissioner there.
That's true. That is true. And first, in that particular seat, my good friend, Assemblyman McClellan, was the first Black legislator in Legislative District 1. But so we're making progress in the spirit of becoming a more perfect union. That's what's happening. So I don't think,
So how will you deal with having someone the New York Times described as a radical pragmatist, a very progressive Black Democrat as your governor when my brother Ras Baraka wins?
We'll deal with it the same way we deal with my dear friend Governor Phil Murphy. It's going to be more of the same, and we'll deal with it the same way by trying to reach across the aisle and find areas where we can agree and pass good legislation and good policy for the people of New Jersey. But it's difficult. When
you say dear friend, are you being funny? Or are you actually friends with him?
I am being seriously sarcastic, yes.
Okay, that's why I'm just making sure. Just making sure. It won't be more of the same because I guarantee you Ras Baraka is more progressive.
Oh, good grief. Okay.
I guarantee you that.
That's not.
But look at Newark.
Possible.
The city is doing great. I mean, under his leadership, the city is thriving. Does that make you mad when progressive Democrats lead a city in a way that gets results? I mean, you're a tech person. You're a business person, and he certainly has made huge progress in tech and business, bringing business and tech into the city, but also probably some policies you wouldn't support as at the same time.
No, listen, I'm never going to be mad when the people who are making progress and who are benefiting from government. I'm never going to be mad about that. Now, I may be mad about the how.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that. Right.
But I'm not going to be mad when people are benefiting from good, solid policy and good programs that encourages them and enables them to do better without the government's help. Like, that's ultimately the
Why
goal.
does it have to be without the government's help? We pay for the government. We are the government in that sense.
And we're not. Well, but I think ultimately the goal is so that people can be more independent, and that the government is there to support, not there to act as your daddy. So that's all.
Does your daddy fix the roads, and does your daddy make sure you? So
Absolutely.
Government shouldn't be fixing roads. Does your daddy pay for your school? So government should.
I did not say that. That's not what I said at all.
Okay.
Like I said, I think when things are, if they are making good progress, to be honest with you, before Senator Booker became a state senator and kind of went left of center, I believe, wasn't he mayor of Newark?
He sure was.
I was a big fan because I thought he had a lot of partnerships. I thought, oh gosh, if anybody hears this, going to be like, what? But my friends know this. I've been a big fan. I was a big fan of Senator Booker when he was mayor of Newark. I used to watch him on C-SPAN. He had partnerships with corporations and things, and really did good work, I thought, for the city of Newark. And I'm not a hater. I'm not a partisan hater. I'm a hater of bad policies, but not a hater of party. I think that there are things that we can agree on, and where we can find those things and put good policy in place for for constituents, I say let's do it.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
I always love talking to you because you're always upbeat, positive, and you sound reasonable until we get down to the real. Like, okay, here's an example.
I am reasonable.
Okay,
I try to be anyway.
So when we're talking about policy over party, right? And that's something I also agree with in theory. I say in theory because it's so many times party and policy are inseparable. To me, the immigration bill is an example of something that, Republicans were asking for. And when you finally got Joe Biden to do it, you didn't want to do it because party was more important than policy. Because electing Trump was more important than changing immigration policy.
I would disagree with that characterization of why that bill wasn't supported. I think that the bill wasn't supported because the general consensus was that it wasn't going to really do anything to help the border crisis, and I think they were low-key kind of ticked off because the HR2, died in the Senate. So I think that's...
It's funny you would say that, though,
now,
because a lot of the provisions in that bill are what Republicans have been pushing for years that the president acquiesced on, and now you say it wouldn't do anything, so that seems strange.
Listen, looking at, here's what I like to say: take the bill that the Democrats proposed, take HR2, maybe take the best of both of those, and can we pass that? What I do hate about the government in general on both sides is not getting.
So you want the Republican and the Democratic bill to have a baby, and that's the one you'll support?
Yes.
Ew.
Just like biracial babies are beautiful. Bipartisan
Lord, I don't believe in biracial. I'm not sure I believe in bipartisan. I think it's like the Easter Bunny. It doesn't really exist.
Well, it used to exist. It used to be a thing.
Yeah, I
think really did.
Way back during the infrastructure bill, you mean?
It needs to get back to being a thing.
Yeah.
It really does. And we've got to stop demonizing each other. You know what I mean? We really.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we started out talking about this morning because the passing of the Reverend James M. Lawson, who was such a, moral voice of nonviolent action in this country. And he was the one who told me I need to stop saying conservative and progressive and just characterize people as to whether they're on the side of justice or not.
Interesting. Now, see, I would agree. I try to use the words conservative or progressive as well because I think that when you say Democrat or Republican, that's not really accurate because not every Republican is a conservative, just like not every Democrat is a progressive.
Okay, Melanie, so explain to me how Trump is a conservative. I understand you like some of his policy, but he got 3 baby mamas. You know what I'm saying? He owns casinos. He's practices sleazy business practices, ripping off, contractors and such. How is that conservative, kind of bedrock conservative values? I don't.
I'm not sure you've ever heard me say that President Trump was a conservative. I think he's a populist who passes conservative. Who has conservative policies? Yeah, no, I don't think he's a conservative.
Okay, well there you go. That now I understand.
But conservatives support him because he has conservative policies, just like conservatives tend to vote Republican because of the policies. But that doesn't mean that the reverse is true, that Republicans are conservative. Listen, I'm a conservative. There are times when I'm in rooms where I have to remind myself that I'm with Republicans. I'm not with conservatives because I'm like, what is going on here? Yeah, so...
So that means that those conservatives are willing to compromise their ethical and moral standards in order to get their way in the legislature.
That's not how I would articulate that because I think you have 2 different things that goes on here. First of all, what president doesn't have what person, forget president, doesn't have skeletons, doesn't have bad things about them.
Yeah, but there are skeletons, and then there's a whole Halloween, Melanie Collette.
At the end of the day, it's about policy, and I use this example all the time, and it's actually literally happened to me. Like I had a specialist that had a terrible bedside manner. Like he was like not a nice guy, not a nice guy. Now, listen, he was an oncologist, specialized in women's health, and maybe with what he deals with every day, he didn't, wasn't a cheery guy. But he was the best. He was like on the top 3 list, best in the area. Okay? Do I want him, or do I want somebody who's really congenial and upbeat and has a squeaky clean record, but like got all C's in medical school and was an average?
Okay, well, tell yourself what you have to. Tell yourself.
Okay.
Tell yourself what you must. Yeah, I think we do too.
So at the end of the day, I want someone who is going to support policies that I support, work toward passing that kind of legislation, toward policies that I support. And listen, if he's not a great guy and he's got some moral failings, that is between him and the Lord to figure out.
Moral feelings. Okay, Melanie Collette, we'll continue this conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fighters that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
When you use Bounce dryer sheets and your clothes look amazing, it's the sheet. Less static in your life? Yeah, it's the sheet. Smelling fresher than ever? It's the sheet. Oh, so soft fabric? Ooh la la. It's the sheet. Less wrinkles on your clothes? You know it's the sheet. Bounce dryer sheets. More freshness, more softness. Less static, less wrinkles. It's the sheet.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with everything I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of dry AMD called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, colors appear dull or washed out. For others, hazy or blurred vision make it hard to see details, like fine print on price tags. Many have trouble seeing in the dark, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time and cannot be reversed. If you think you have GA, don't wait. Treatments are available. Ask a retina specialist about FDA-approved treatments for GA and go to GAWon'tWait.com.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
And we are talking with a newly elected county commissioner and Project 21 member. She's media spokesperson as well, Melanie Collette. She appears weekly on the Newsmax TV show American Agenda. Now, can you keep doing that now that you're an elected official?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I guess we do see electeds on all the time. Yeah. No, go ahead.
Yeah, we can do that.
It's just while you're running, right?
I still did it while I was running. I just never mentioned that I was running.
Oh, I got you.
Never mentioned.
Well, if it works for them,
TV,
yeah.
No, they knew I was running. I told them I was running, but they were fine with that. As long as I don't do any electioneering while I'm running, which I never did. I never mention it at all.
So we were talking about, you know, the difference between whether a conservative is necessarily Republican and vice versa. Certainly we have some people that are conservative, socially conservative, who are Democrats. And you were saying you'd rather have the mean guy that's a good doctor than the nice guy who's a crappy doctor. But we What about the mean guy who's also a crappy doctor? I think that's what we're talking about. In any case,
well, we don't. Well, I would disagree. I think we have. I think President Trump typically has good policy, and that's
typically has good policy. But I mean, back to your conservative.
Listen,
he has. But he's convicted of 34 felonies, Melanie. That doesn't change your calculus at all. 34 felonies.
Nope.
Found liable for rape in New York, fraud. 83. None of these sway you whatsoever.
With the rape, that was not criminal at all. That was a preponderance of the evidence. That was not a criminal trial.
It was a civil trial, but it's still rape.
It was a civil trial. That's exactly right.
But that's just the venue.
And I listened.
Oh, okay. You think it didn't happen?
That's not proof. That's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So no, I'm not going to.
And the other more than a dozen women that have accused him, and him admitting on tape that grabbing women by the nether regions is cool if you're famous. None of that sways you.
That's not what he said. That's absolutely not what he said. And no, I'm not good.
It's exactly what he said. He said if they're celebrity, they let you do it. You can grab them by the. Yeah.
I'm not good with sky high inflation. I'm not good with an open border. I am not good with abortion until after the baby is born. I'm not good with any of those things. I'm not good with any of those policies.
Until after the baby. Wait. What does abortion until after the baby is born mean?
Oh, your governor that lost to Youngkin said that in Virginia. Said, sometimes the baby can be born and you can, the parents can make a decision in consultation with their doctor.
Oh, okay, you're being funny. Got it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's not actually a thing. I missed the joke. Got it.
It is a thing. That's exactly what he said.
It is not a thing.
It is absolutely a thing. That's what he said. So,
what some stupid thing one guy says does not make it a thing. But anyway, got it. So you're saying that the kind of exactly what I said, but just with a better framing, that you're willing to put up with all this other stuff because either you don't believe it or you think the wins that you're getting are more important.
Because at the end of the day, it is the policy that affects every citizen's everyday life. At the end of the day, none of that stuff. I hate using that phrase. I gotta find a new one.
At the end of the day, yeah, you should find a new one. Politicians say at the end of the day too much.
I do. We got to do better. I got to do better.
In the final analysis, in conclusion,
there it is. That's good.
Yeah, my bottom line.
Good. Yes, it's about the policies, and it is the policies and the laws and the legislation and the regulation that affects everybody in this country's everyday life.
So a couple of policies I want to ask you about then specifically, as a conservative and as a woman, a black woman at that. The fact that Republicans could not sign off on a bill protecting a woman's right to contraception, head faking or signaling.
Which contraception? That's broad.
But you know what I'm referring to. Women's right to contraception as opposed to abortion, it's signaling that and the president said, and the former president said, and then quickly reeled it back in, but I felt like it was a dog whistle, that he will look at limiting women's access to contraception. That's a policy you're fine with?
It depends on the type of contraception.
Okay, so we're going to tap dance our answer to that. You can't straight up say women have a right to contraception.
No, I'm not going to say that. I don't know that it's a right. I think it's a personal choice. I don't think that the government is responsible for a woman's right to contraception. And again,
it's not about government responsibility. It's about what our rights are under the law.
There's contraception, right, but it's not government funded. See, I think one misnomer about the pro-life movement is that, listen, there are some very, very extreme pro-life people that don't want any abortion whatsoever, never. And quite honestly, in an ideal world,
like Trump.
I would want that.
Yeah,
I would want that too. Okay, but from a legislative and policy standpoint, I don't think that is possible. But what I will say is this. most pro-life people, what they really want is not to have their money paying for it. That's
You mean
the
most
biggest problem.
anti-choice
Don't
people?
want-
That is so not true. They're arresting women. They are actually keeping women from having life-saving procedures. You know that's true. And so you're saying you don't want the government involved, but that's not what the policies in these states are showing up as, and that's not what's being articulated by your party. It's removing the right for doctors to make decisions that could save women's lives.
Well, and if a doctor is making that decision and they're not, and it's a death dealing type situation, I don't like situations. I've talked to a friend of mine who's also a Republican who did the same thing that you said, and I said this to her. I said, if there are situations where the mom is definitely going to die and that's what the doctor thinks, then as conservatively as possible, no, that right shouldn't be taken away. But these selective
But it is being
abortions,
taken away. It is being taken away right now.
If that is the case, those things need to be fixed. I would encourage everyone to take a look at, there's an organization, I want to make sure that I have it right here. The name of the organization is I can't believe I don't have that. I had that right in front of me and I got rid of it. But it's an organization of pro-life OBGYNs that explain very specifically, I think it's the American Association for Life or something like that, OBGYNs. And they have tons and tons of information that explain these laws in detail. And one of the things that they talk about is that many of the bands, I was actually on it this morning because I figured this would come up, have a problem with, dismembering living babies as opposed to babies that have already passed and are in the woman's body. The devil is always in the details with these things.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you listen.
Well, it's a disingenuous conversation, but I don't know where we go. We just agree to disagree. We're up against the clock here. I hope you'll come back another day, Melanie. Really, I hope you will.
Always.
Tell folks real quick how they can reach you or follow you.
You definitely want to follow me at NJGOP Diva on X, on what is now X. Anytime if you want to hear my political rantings and ravings. And I'll follow you back.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll talk again soon, Melanie Collette. A perfect time to call me.
Thanks so much. You have a great day.
KBLA Talk 1580. You too.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Manhattan District Attorney who prosecuted Donald Trump in his hush money case is agreeing to testify before Congress. Alvin Bragg's office responded to a request from the Republican-led House Judiciary Committee to answer questions about the case. Republicans have accused the African-American DA of carrying out an unprecedented abuse of prosecutorial authority. In Maryland, the Fort McHenry Federal Channel has been fully restored to its original dimensions for commercial maritime transit through the Port of Baltimore. The channel has been closed since a container ship crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge on March 26th, causing it to collapse and claiming the lives of 6 construction workers who were on the span. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Now your ideas don't have to wait. Dell Technologies and Intel are pushing what technology can do, so great ideas can happen right now. Bring your ideas to life at Dell.com. Welcome to now.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers were trying to renew their search for a new coach after Dan Hurley rocked the franchise Monday when he turned down the job. Here are the candidates expected to get a call from Lakers GM Rob Pelinka to resume conversations. New Orleans Pelicans assistant James Borrego, ABC TV analyst J.J. Redick, and Boston Celtics assistant Sam Cassell. Former Lakers head coach Darvin Ham is returning to the Milwaukee Bucks as an assistant. Ham agreed to join Doc Rivers' staff. Ham will be Rivers' #1 assistant assistant. Helmed was an assistant with the Bucks for 4 years before getting hired by the Lakers in 2022. Congrats to Pittsburgh Steelers coach Mike Tomlin. He was given a contract extension that keeps him with the team through 2027. Tomlin is preparing for his 18th season with the Steelers, the longest tenure among active NFL head coaches. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Have you been a victim or witness to hate or discrimination? Contact the California vs. Hate hotline to report the incident by calling 833-8-NO-HATE or visit cavshate.org. They'll help you access resources and support, including legal, financial, mental health, and mediation services. California vs. Hate is not affiliated with the police, and you can report anonymously. Use your voice. Report hate by calling 833-8-NO-HATE or visit cavshate.org. Res Radio 91.3.
History in the making. Come join the Get Me Expo Sunday, June 23rd, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. in Gardena, California. The first lowrider, custom cars, and bike manufacturing expo. Come learn the economics behind the billion-dollar industry, hosted by legendary celebrity car builder T.J. Lofton. Featuring panel discussions and vendors. Come network, tickets, and vendors. Go to getmeexpo.com. GITMEexpo.com. Become a sponsor. Great vibe. GetMeExpo.com. See you there.
What does it take to take on Alzheimer's? Awareness that nearly 2/3 of those diagnosed are women, including Black women. Dedication to lowering your risk by eating healthy and monitoring blood pressure. And confidence to talk to your healthcare provider about screening and early detection. You have what it takes to take on Alzheimer's. Learn about signs and screening at takeonalz.com. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
To help combat climate change, LADWP is helping neighborhoods have better access to electric vehicles by awarding nearly $130 million in EV rebates to customers just like you. From big savings on used EVs to building new charging plazas, LADWP is charging ahead to help all Angelenos experience the benefits of EVs. Get rebates of up to $4,000 for a used EV and $1,750 for a charger. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
So we do that every other week. Usually, about every other week, we bring in one of our friends who don't stand for justice, members of the Republican Party or whatever, and maybe some of them do. You always have the opportunity to come on here and say what you have to say for yourself rather than my interpretation of what you have to say. 800-920-1580 if you want to react or respond. Before we get into your calls, though, which I'm looking forward to, I want to say rest in peace once again to Reverend James M. Lawson, to send condolences and prayers to his family and church family, his extended community through activism. And Miles pulled up a short clip from a recent conversation I had with Reverend Lawson on this show, which seems to be sort of a very appropriate given the conversation we just had with Melanie Collette, who is an operative with Project 21 and an elected Republican official, black Republican official in the state of New Jersey. So let's have a listen, Reverend James M. Lawson.
I have been expecting Donald Trump. That is, the ingathering of the spiritual forces of wickedness in the United States, embodied in a person and in a movement to turn the human race backwards. I have been expecting that. It did not happen in the 60s, both because of the power of the nonviolent movement of the USA. Now, you haven't heard anyone say that, you see, because historians don't say it. And the recognition that the history of black song and black spirituality is a history about being alive by the grace of God and looking at what that requires of us today.
Reverend James Lawson speaking actually at Holman United Methodist Church earlier this year as the SCLC launched their inaugural Reverend James, Mr. and Mrs. James Lawson Award, which Lawson insisted be awarded to Mark Ridley Thomas and Avis Ridley Thomas, Mark Ridley Thomas's wife and activist in her own right, Avis Ridley Thomas, that Reverend Lawson was insistent that be awarded to former supervisor, council member, SCLC leader Mark Ridley Thomas, rather than having the inaugural award go to himself and his own wife. And one of the final things that we'll remember is that, well, maybe they'll grant him that award posthumously next year. Certainly he has enough accolades to last a lifetime. But the framing, the understanding that what is happening right now under this movement and in the person of the man who just completed his first probation hearing on yesterday is the embodiment of wickedness in this country. A powerful statement from a man of tremendous moral authority. Let's go to Paul calling us from LA. Good morning, Paul.
And Dominique, oh, you lit the fire this morning. I have to call in.
Glad you did.
So there's a couple of things. So I think I'm going to start with this because there's a couple of things I heard that aren't actually true, right? So when we're talking conservatism overall within the black community and black people, I would argue our livelihood in conservatism is much different than what we're dealing with in white America. In most ways, when I hear a lot of people say, well, I'm a conservative, like the current Republican Party aren't conservative. They're more towards a populist party now. They're more towards, they don't want essentially a democracy. Why? Because I believe the backlash started really with Obama, but this overall push and movement they've been they've latched on to has been going on since Reagan was in office. And it's just real interesting when I hear that, well, policies. And I say, well, Trump's policies actually hurt the black community. When you talk about the opportunity zones that were signed off, that was a policy that essentially gave people with money the opportunity to buy in quote unquote at-risk communities, predominantly black and brown communities, and basically to find a way to evade paying taxes, which in turn raised the properties. If you owned a home, you stayed in the home, that was fine. But if you lost a home, it was very hard for people to sell and buy somewhere else. If you're talking policies, we're really talking about the Paul Ryan policies that Trump ended up signing. Those tax cuts came beneficial to the wealthy. That in turn hurt the working class because somebody has to pay those taxes. I heard also when I heard policies, I heard her talk about, and not just her directly, because it's really a talking point that a lot of people move. I'm going to go over the deficit of the last 4 presidents, right, main presidents. So starting with George W. Bush, just real quick. When he came in office, he came into a surplus, that was from Clinton, of $128 billion. In 2009, when he left, it grew in deficit to $1.4 trillion. So that doesn't sound conservative to me. Barack Obama then inherited the economy that he passed him in, which led to a recession because we understood what happened with the housing crisis, right? Because of their policies, right? And did we know that Obama still took that in and actually reduced the deficit from $1.4 trillion down to $665 billion. So then Obama hands Trump basically an economy that's cooking, right? That's everything's working right, everybody's doing well. And the guy that everybody's saying policies were beneficial to the country actually increased the deficit to $3.13 trillion. Why? Because of those tax cuts that he implemented and signed, which are really Paul Ryan's. So then when I hear policies, President Biden took what Trump handed him. Obviously, we know what happened with COVID and how he handled that. And the deficit was currently down as of 2023 to $1.7 trillion from $3.1 trillion. So when I hear the word conservative, these people aren't conservatives. Trump is just a distraction. That's all Trump is.
I mean, I think that to some extent they may be social conservatives, but your point is taken in terms of, they want to say that Democrats are the ones that tax and spend. They spend they spend and drive the deficit up and give party favors to the rich. They just spend on different things. They spend on giving tax rebates to the rich. They won't spend to feed American children.
Which leads to inflation. So remember, this is just keep it real simple, y'all. From the last 10 to 11 presidents, the last 10 to 11 presidents that led to recessions were led by Republicans. The Republicans, how they want to spend money, they believe in tax cuts, but at some point that deficit grows and it has to be paid somewhere. So a Democrat comes into office, fixes the economy, and typically what happens is it whipsaws right back to a Republican in office. When I say that Trump, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dominique.
No, go ahead.
When I say Trump is a distraction, and I really plead with people to understand what's at stake in this upcoming election, I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but I want you to understand why we talk policies and why they matter, why we talk judges and why they matter. In Project 2025, I've already done this brief notes to tell you what's in there. They're going to cut ACA, which is really Obamacare. They want to fully privatize the Medicare system. They want to revoke birthright citizenship. Oh, remember those student loans that everybody got, that 10% of the people have gotten forgiven, that the Biden administration had to work around Republicans trying to buy it? Yeah, they want to walk that back too. When we're talking about a woman's right to control her body and her freedom, yeah, they're talking about abortion. They're talking about banning abortion pills altogether. So when I hear, well, you know, that I don't personally feel that, you know, I don't believe in abortion, right? But you do care for a woman having a choice and freedom of her body and autonomy. So there was one more thing I want to focus on right here. So when you talk,
hold that thought, Paul. We'll continue the conversation. I mean, you got a lot of food for thought. I'm glad you're having these reactions. I do think that, you know, people get real squirrely and fuzzy with terms when they're trying to sell you, a bill of goods. But we'll continue this conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Tips to help improve basic steps for building a budget in 2024. Building a budget can help you achieve and reach your financial goals. With a budget, you can keep track of your spending, avoid and get out of debt, limit overspending, pay bills on time, and build solid savings habits. What's the best way to get started? Figure out how much to set aside for expenses, like rent, mortgage, bills, groceries, and entertainment. Understanding your past financial habits can help you make the proper adjustments for your budget. Adjusting to a budget can take time as you work to find the right balance, but keep working on it. For more financial health tips, visit chase.com or stop by a local branch. This segment is sponsored by J.P. Morgan Chase & Company.
KBLA delegation, listen up. If you're not feeling like yourself lately and your weight loss dreams are, well, kind of like pipe dreams at this point, you've been chasing those 20 pounds for 20 years, 20 months, 20 days, it is time for D-Herbs. D-Herbs Full Body Cleanse is a natural cleansing regimen that can help you lose those 20 pounds, even more. This full body cleanse will also help with your immune system and boost your digestion. Well, summer right around the corner, and it is. You can stop chasing that 20 pounds and chase a better lifestyle overall, a healthy lifestyle. Reboot your system and lose weight. Just go to dherbs.com and order your full body cleanse or call them at 866-434-3727. Mention KBLA 1580 and get 10% off your order. dherbs.com. Experience healing.
Looks like Bobby needs a ride again.
Grab the keys. Let's take our auntie to the swap meet. Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, do it all in a Chevy SUV. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse limited models. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $2,860 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8% must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/1/24.
Hey, LA residents, it's planting season and the perfect time to get shade trees growing around your home. LADWP and City Plants are giving every resident up to 7 free trees. That's right, 7 free trees delivered right to your door. Trees are great for the environment, help improve air quality, and can help you save on your bill when you use less air conditioning to stay cool indoors. Learn more at ladwp.com/free trees. That's ladwp.com/free trees.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Pizza's here.
Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Right now, next hour, we'll have newly elected City Council President Marquise Harris Dawson joining us for the hour. He's, of course, the council member for District 8 in Los Angeles, and got a lot to talk about there. Right now, though, Paul called me from L.A. He called 800-920-1580. You can do the same. And, Paul, you were talking about, this conservatism versus populism and the way that Republicans like to run up the deficit and drive the economy into the ditch, and then Democrats come and fix it, and then Republicans come and break it again, mostly by spending goo gobs of money in tax cuts to the rich, and weird spending priorities such as ginormous military budgets. You didn't mention that, but I thought I'd throw it in there. Paul, you said you had one more point you wanted to make.
Yes, thank you, Dominique. So there was a report from, so for those that, if you may not believe in, abortions, and that's your personal belief, right? But there was a report that came from CNN the beginning of this year. So after the Supreme Court, and this is what matters because this upcoming election, there's going to be potentially at least 2 Supreme Court justices that already has a 6-3 majority for Republicans, seats that could be on the line here. So the courts matter too. But so there was a report that after the Dobbs decision, and remember that the court threw the decisions back to the states. Once that happened, there was over the last year, there was 520,000 cases of sexual violence and crime. And of that, 565,000 ended in pregnancies. So I want people to understand that there are states now that have full bans in place that are telling victims that you're going to have this rapist child. And if you're not paying attention to what they say, pay attention to what they do, because policies matter. And when you get to a point where things are thrown back to the states, you're going to start seeing a lot of the Southern strategy and what they've been flirting with. They're coming back home to roost. And typically in those states are a large percentage of black people. Thank you, Dominique.
All right, I appreciate the call, Paul, and a lot of the points. I mean, look, when they say they want you to have more babies, the Elon Musks of the world, the so-called conservatives of the world, they are not talking about you black people. They're not talking about you Latino people, but they certainly will criminalize you for trying to get care. We saw this with the young African-American woman who had a miscarriage, and they tried to prosecute her for having an abortion because a nurse ratted her out, and they said she didn't because she was seeking care at the hospital. They said she didn't properly dispose of the remains, and they wouldn't help her at the hospital. Doctors are moving out of these states because they do not want to be criminally liable for giving the care that they know is needed in certain cases where the woman's life is at risk. I mean, and so I think this idea of looking at what folks are doing rather than what they're saying is super important. Even the conversation I just completed with Melanie Collette, I asked, do women have a right to contraception? She wants to say, what contraception? So now the Republican Party, even though they claim they don't want government interference, wants to interfere with my right to choose what form of birth control I use? That's insane. Let's go to Mike calling us from somewhere in California. Hi, Mike.
Calling from California. How you doing?
Boy, you sound a lot like a guy I know calls me from Inglewood. Mike?
I just got finished taking my blood pressure medication because your caller ran my blood pressure. But I wanted to tap on real quick. Donald Trump is a convicted criminal, and you got Joe Biden dancing with the blacks next to a gay guy, the worst president in the world. So I wonder if...
Wait, did you say Donald Trump was a criminal or not a criminal? I missed that.
I say he's a convicted criminal, and you got Joe Biden can't dance next to a gay guy, but you got convicted criminal and black vote for him. I'm trying to know how is that guy is so racist. And then with your last caller talking about the Republicans and about abortions, that's BS. Democrats is for incest, and you cannot get an abortion.
Democrats are for incest? What are you okay? Okay, you send so many wacko things today. I think you've set a new record. So let's try to take them one at a time. We only have a couple minutes here. So you're mad at Biden because he can't dance, and you're mad at Trump because he's a criminal? Huh?
I said you got Joe Biden dancing next to the gay guy who can't dance whatsoever, is the worstest president we ever had.
So
he's the real criminal.
Okay, first of all, Mike, worstest is not a word. Biden, you're mad at him because he's dancing next to the gay guy or because he can't dance? As far as I could see, he wasn't really dancing. He was stiffly standing there. Yeah.
May I answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
He's the worst president we had. He danced next to the gay guy. He go to a black and pander to them 3 months because of the election coming up and think we supposed to vote for him.
But
he's a criminal. He's more criminal than Donald Trump.
Okay, I got you.
So
but what does that have to do with him dancing next to a gay guy?
It don't. I'm telling you, the guy can't even dance.
Oh, you're just throwing that in there. Okay, gotcha. Well, first, I mean, as far as what you're saying about him being the worst president ever, it's a great talking point, but you can't give me an example. As far as pandering, well, I'm not a big Biden stan, but he didn't show up 3 months before the election. He actually campaigned with a black vice president. One of the first things he did was appoint a Supreme Court justice who's not only highly qualified but also a black woman. He has done his best to make good on the student loan forgiveness. One of the first things he did was $4 billion for black farmers, which was blocked by Republicans. Yes, go ahead.
May I say one more thing?
Mm-hmm.
This world is transitioning right before our eyes. Without a border, no country. For this guy to the SBU or whatever, think black's going to get his vote for the last 3 months. So why Donald Trump so racist? Why is all the blacks starting to vote for him then? You need to look at Fox News.
All the blacks black people are not starting to vote for him. No, there's been a small shift, but all the black people are overwhelmingly still going to vote how they vote, and it'll be Biden or West, but it sure ain't going to be Trump.
Have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out.
Oh, you can't say that on the radio. Okay. Well, Mike, we'll continue the conversation perhaps another day. We are welcoming Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson to the conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Manhattan District bringing out an unprecedented abuse of prosecutorial authority. In Maryland, the Fort McHenry Federal Channel